On Sen Tully.
First of all, I want to commend Senator Cosgrove for introducing this bill and her colleagues. I think it's really worthwhile, and Sinn Féin will be supporting the bill because it is a basic thing. It's equal pay for equal work, and anything other than that is discriminatory, it's exploitative, and it amounts to cheap labour, and it is open to abuse by some employers. I mean, young people, whether they're 17 or 21, they pay the same rate of tax and PRSI and USC, so they are entitled to be paid the same rate for the same work. I just think the whole concept is outdated and old-fashioned. And I think when the reduced rate of minimum pay was introduced, it was to encourage young people to take up part-time work but not to leave school. Times have changed significantly, as Senator Harman has outlined. We have one of the highest rates of secondary school completion and one of the highest rates of uptake in higher education. Costs have changed as well. Like, young people have significant costs that you can't expect the parents to cover, such as their phone, transport, accommodation, and especially if they're in education and living away from home. Just cost of living in general affects young people as much as it does any of the rest of us, and it's affecting their families as well. All of our families are feeling the pinch. My party colleague Paul Gavin introduced very similar legislation when he was here in the Shannon, and I know I have colleagues in the Dáil who are actually considering again similar legislation for introduction there very soon. And this has been abolished in Germany, in Spain and in Belgium, and in Korea and in Canada. So I think we need to follow suit. My son was working recently in a hotel, and he started work there. He was under 18 and he was being paid $9.45 an hour. And when he reached 18, it went up to $10.80. And other people in there were 19 or 20 or plus, 20 plus. They were all doing exactly the same work. The work didn't change when he just suddenly turned 18. He was able to carry out the same work as anybody else aged 17 or 18 or 19 or etc. And I just don't think it's fair that someone is paid like over €4 an hour extra just because they're a few years older and they're doing precisely the same work. And often the work that our young people do is very hard work. They work on sociable hours, they work weekends, they work late at those hours, they work in pubs, they work in takeaways. They're often subjected to abuse from people coming into those establishments, and they deserve to be paid properly. We don't have gender discrimination, we should not have age discrimination. In relation to internships, it's become the situation that it's only for the wealthy to take up internships because people can't afford to live without being paid. So you can't afford to take up an internship where you're being paid little or nothing for that year because of the cost of living, again, accommodation, etc. So it's only people from wealthy families whose parents can support them can actually now take up an internship. In relation to apprenticeships, we need to increase the number of people participating in apprenticeships, especially in the construction sector. We need houses, but that's not actually happening. And the poor pay, particularly for the first 2 years, is not enticing people to enter apprenticeships. One young man who lived near me, he left school at 17 or 18, he did something for a few years, and then he decided to do an apprenticeship as an electrician. He was receiving just over €7 an hour in his first year, and that went up to 8 something an hour in his second year. That's not sustainable. And there are many older people who are considering taking up an apprenticeship, but they can't afford to. These could be people who are now married with children and a mortgage and have additional costs, and we need them to take up apprenticeships, but it's a disincentive, the pay at the moment. There are other issues as well, and as they were addressing them in the Committee on Higher Education, but we need to incentivise people to take up apprenticeships and make it attractive, especially as 3 out of 5 of our young people are considering leaving the country currently. And we need them to stay here. So we need to incentivise them to take up apprenticeships or to take up work here. And we were talking about the National Training Fund and the change of use of the National Training Fund. Maybe we should be looking at the National Training Fund as a source of funding to support our apprenticeships, our apprentices in getting better pay within the work they're doing. So I am supporting the bill. We are supporting the bill in Sinn Féin. Thank you.